going to have us on the Zoom. It might already be happening. It's just so hard to know. It's so hard to know. I just got super nervous. Oh, yeah, it's happening. Okay, we are there. Okay, we're going to look at the Zoom part. Oh, I did this thing yesterday where I had it like this, and then I can see, yeah, so I can see if anybody comments. Okay, okay, cool. I'm super nervous now.
Why all of a sudden?
This feels like the majority of our relationship has been COVID times.
Yeah.
And so to actually be with people, even virtually, oh, here, let's change the angle. Even virtually feels a little closer. Feels it's exciting and just before we came on, Lance here.
Yeah.
So when I would play cello, my quartet that I worked with, we would have this joke, like, don't peak too soon, because often the dress rehearsal would be like, we'd start to really give it, and then it would be not. It was like, we'd be like, you'd steal the juice from the actual performance. And so I kind of liked what we were talking about. So the universe sculpted it now. So I started with my fears, but then you were feeling nervous too. And so I asked what your fears were.
You did.
I did.
You did.
You shared with people.
Yeah, it's fear of being judged, fear of being mocked. Felt like young fears, schoolground fears of exposing myself too much and that being used as ammunition against me.
It feels like one of the things that we've been unwinding with each other in our relationship is, we're not 20. We have an entire lifetime of relationships that didn't work out.
Yeah.
And so coming into a relationship with new tools, we've both done huge recent self-development. Matt's a relationship coach. I'm a, depends what day it is, coach. And so we've come with all these new tools, but we still have like wiring in our head that I think one of the things we've been really, really good with is that fear of judgment piece.
Yeah.
With each other.
Yeah. About that fear of judgment.
Well, like when we first met, would that have been one of the things that you felt like you were figuring out, was like how much of yourself to hold back or to protect or to not show for fear of judgment within a relationship?
No. because I'd made a commitment to myself to really feel everything that was happening for me.
My cat's excited. She wants to get in on the action.
She's doing some filing of paperwork.
Fuck this thing, fuck that thing, fuck those things too.
Was because I wasn't long out of my marriage, and I wasn't expecting to get into a relationship so soon. And one of the commitments I'd made was to just go through whatever process I needed to.
Yeah.
So I was prepared to show up and one of the wonderful things was that you kept kept meeting me where I was, even when I was not particularly together
With yourself.
with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Even when I was in those confused in between spaces.
When I told him that when I told you that I fell in love with you on the first date, you were like, "What even is that's not possible?" I was like, "No," and that's what love is to me. That's if I loving, part of loving you means meeting you where you are, loving where you are, as opposed to, when are you gonna fix that thing already?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's still some things that I was like, just checking in if that might shift at some point.
Like today. Maybe.
Today would be good.
Yeah.
But also, like, if you need time, you need time.
Yeah.
That's what's true.
Yeah. Yeah, and you were able to, and still are able to give me the time and space. And back to what you were saying a few minutes ago, this is the first relationship I've gone into with these, with the skills I've had since I was trained as a coach, since I've been a coach. And it's very it's very different having these. When I acquired these skills, I was still in my marriage, and it was really helpful to see what was working and what wasn't from my perspective. Just really helpful. Just that clarity was gold. But then being at the beginning of a relationship and in a relationship and being able to build a relationship with that clarity has been amazing.
What clarity? What's the clarity? Clarity of what?
Clarity, that's a huge question. Clarity of so many things. How to communicate, how I can communicate more clearly, how I can take responsibility for myself more fully, how I can recognize where I'm feeling connected and where I'm feeling disconnected with myself and with you, how I can move towards connection with you, how I can receive connection from you, with you. So much.
One of the things that I love is we actually can laugh in the moment with each other while we're feeling the old habits. So it gives me so much joy when we're like, yep, I just want to slam that door and say, see you later, I'm out. And we're like killing ourselves laughing, connected while. And it feels like a miracle to me.
Feels like a miracle to me too. Yeah. And the relief of that, the relief of the relief of not having stuff under the rug.
The rug is very smooth.
It's very smooth, and that I was a pro at putting stuff under the rug before.
I was a pro at pretending I wasn't putting stuff under the rug, and also really blaming everyone else for their stuff under the rug. It's like, there's no stuff for my stuff under the rug if you take out all that stuff under the rug space.
So inconsiderate.
Really,
those
truly.
People. Yeah, and a big part of my work before I met you was being able to show up in conflict. And a big part of my my training and my work as a coach is acknowledging that conflict is part and parcel of being in connection with somebody. And so being able to show up for that, and by that I mean like literally
staying in the
room or staying on the call, and working it through, taking responsibility for where I need to, and listening.
I want to share that one of the first places where you taught me how to support the relationship by knowing and supporting you was when you said, it's totally okay if you need to leave the room. It's totally okay if you need to take a breath or a break or whatever you need. Could you just tell me, just let me know that you're going to be back?
Yeah.
And that seems so small, but honestly, it was such a revelation of that honoring each other also honors the relationship.
Yeah.
Like, can I just step out of my own, storm and fury for 5 seconds and acknowledge that what's happening for me not only impacts you, it impacts the relationship, and I can take what I need, but not to blindside you in the process. That it's such a kindness to have that extra minute if it's important enough to me that no matter how I'm feeling, I can let you know I'll be back. And there's also a belief around that too, right? Like I have to check in with like, am I going to be back?
I'm going to be back. Is it going to be 5 minutes or 5 days?
Yes.
Or 5 never.
Or 5. How about Thursday? No, never. It's never good for you.
Yeah.
The New Yorker, the little cartoon that I love. I think that was the beginning of learning of, for me, it was such a huge discovery that I could co-create relationship with somebody.
Yeah. And this is where I get excited talking about relationships and us. And so I think there's an understanding that a lot of us have about relationships, that the relationship is the thing that works. Like it's only a relationship when we're getting on and everything's good.
When you do everything I want you to, right?
Exactly.
But
the relationship is also when we've had a spat or a misunderstanding. That is also the relationship. And so how we are in those moments, the kindness and consideration that we can show for ourselves and for one another, is it that contributes to making the relationship so incredible when there isn't conflict, when there isn't bumps. It's like, then we can really fucking soar.
Well, who wants a fair weather relationship? We don't want friends that way. We don't want to abandon ourselves when things get hard. So there's a trust that gets both built and, I don't know. I go back and forth with trust. I had a girlfriend who would say, I trust you right away and you can take it away really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have other people who say things like, I need to build trust with you. And I sort of find that I kind of float between the two, and I'm finding that our trust with each other often takes me by surprise. Like suddenly it just lands at a new level that I just didn't even know was there.
Yeah. And
I think that, with the assuming things are going to come up, having the mindset that it's not a wrongness, that something's come up, that I feel like we're thinking less and less. Tell me if this is true. Like it used to be when we would have something come up, we'd be like, is this even the right relationship? Like we'd like something like this would make us question.
Like you and me?
Yeah.
Like you and me question if it was the right relationship?
Yeah. Like when we had something we both shared with each other, we were like, it made me wonder, like, is this the right, if we're going to have this kind of problem, isn't that an indicator? Like, should I still be here?
Yeah.
And as these new layers of trust open up, that I'll put it this way, that voice seems to be getting really quiet. It's getting much smaller, that doubting the relationship when stuff comes up.
Yeah. And my experience of that is, tell me if this is the same for you, but those moments where I'm like, is this the thing? Like, is this thing that's just happened, is it the indication of whether this is the right relationship or not? It's usually, it feels like what shifts that is an acceptance of, so maybe it's something that's come up that's upset me, and I'm like, well, this is possibly it then. But then I'll tell you about it and you'll be like, oh, okay, I understand. It makes sense why you got that upset. And that makes so much difference. I feel like it's that shifts it, because that's a story I have, that's a belief I have, I think.
That something that's unaccepted by me and unacceptable for the relationship, therefore makes the relationship unacceptable.
I think it's the belief that, like, if I'm upset by something that you've done, then I'm not going to be listened to around that thing. I'm not going to be apologized to if an apology is necessary. That there's going to be no, that's just going to be it. Well, it kind of like it or lump it kind of thing. So it's a belief. So my experience with you consistently has, whenever stuff has come up, it's like, okay, and then we look at it and understand it.
And which I think part of what you were trying to say, alluding to earlier, is by then understanding this new thing that comes up, that came up, then we understand each other better, which then grows the trust.
Yeah.
It's not like, I love all of you except like these things.
Yeah.
Those things. But when understanding is a big part of accepting. If it makes sense. I don't know, like, I think some people get caught up on, for example, forgiveness. That if I forgive you, then then it's okay. But what if understanding and knowing the person where they are, I don't know, I'm getting a bit in the weeds, but it feels like part of holding space. It feels like part of what lets the resistance go. Lily really wants to come now. Come here, baby. Yeah, that's what I talked about, sort of those elemental things on my first live, that when you're in the noticing of something, it lets you not be judging it.
Yeah.
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
So if you've got stuff coming up, this is what I was thinking a few minutes ago too, there actually starts to even be I wonder what they're saying. Because if it's in the way, then really the wonderful offer is that we actually are going to be processing something that's in the way of our connection.
Yeah. So much that. Yeah.
So we've completely, in a way, shifted how we look at conflict. That's why it doesn't ever occur to me as fighting.
Yeah.
Like, we never yell.
Yeah, it doesn't go there.
It just doesn't.
We do yell, but we don't yell at each other.
Oh yeah, we have a yelling practice.
we there are cushions that get yelled into.
You're big on the cushions.
I'm big on the cushions. What's your preferred yelling practice?
When we wrestle.
When we wrestle, we growl. So we wrestle, we lock, and we.
It's gloriously primal.
Yeah.
And it makes us giggle while we're being fierce and ferocious, but then makes me giggle even more because it's absolutely hilariously ridiculous and wonderful and perfect.
Yeah. So there's an acceptance of those bad emotions.
They just become part of
They
the rainbow.
become part of the rainbow. Yeah, that's nice.
I didn't expect to use the word.
Yeah.
That feels cheesy. I'm embarrassed.
But they become part. So the expression of the discomfort, whether it's whatever it is, anger or frustration.
Oh, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah.
And I've also learned through being able to be in conversation like we are, that I have a quality that I first heard about from Brene Brown. I go into hyper effectiveness, hyper function. So I've come to recognize like something will happen and that might be like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm great right now. And we'll see you in an hour because I'm like taking care of all the things. And now that I know that about myself, that also gives both of us more permission that when upset does come up to be cried or released or what have you, we're like, oh, go there. Okay. And it doesn't feel like it has to be. Yeah. But then our nervous system can just be like, oh, okay. As opposed to, what is it now? I hate the what is it now in my nervous system.
That's reminding me of two things that we identified really early on. And this was something from my training that was important for me to share, and another one of those pieces of being able to create a relationship and bring into a relationship is, so if there's an issue between us, if like my child is like, I've fucked up, I've done something wrong, and in my childhood, like me doing something wrong means I am wrong.
Shame.
And so one of the things that you remember to say to me.
Oh, and this is from my training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You tell me.
Don't me to say it.
Yeah, say it.
All of you is welcome here.
Yeah. And it helps calm me down. And
from your training, I say, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And your soothing phrase, do you remember what it is that I say to you?
What would feel good right now?
No. Everything's okay.
Oh yeah, we had that came up for us like I feel a couple months ago now. It actually occurred as part of the creation of the course that I did, that I'm going to be announcing about tomorrow, of what if everything's okay? What if even though I'm feeling all of these big things, what if everything's actually still okay? What if it's okay? What if it's actually okay? And there's layers of what if what I'm feeling is okay? So there's like stepping out of the resistance that whatever I'm feeling is bad or wrong. There's what if I'm actually okay? And as you sort of feel into your body, you're like, well, actually, even though I have a lot of sensations, like I'm not losing limbs or about to die in any way, shape, or form. I've got food in the fridge, and sort of that like just survival survival check-in. Like body is actually body okay.
Yeah.
And then you're like, and then for me, that what if everything's okay space lets me hear the deeper whatever it was that needed to be seen and heard and felt to be shifted for me and therefore for us in the relationship. That is actually the space that lets that occur.
Yeah.
It occurs, it gets asked for in a not okay space, like it feels really, really challenging. But the actual process of it is in this bigger, what if everything's okay? Even as this storm in a teacup maybe is happening, that you can zoom out to the noticing that everything's actually okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really helpful to, like what you said, to zoom out. And because when we're, like if there's a bump, if there's something like hot, like, or like the focus gets really intense, and it's about that thing right there, and we forget, I forget, and it can short circuit, that thing we're dealing with can short circuit back to those childhood wounds.
Yeah.
So just for me to be reminded that there's more than that happening. There's more than that that's accessible to me.
Yeah. And I love as my work with the divine feminine has been expanding, that it's actually getting, dare I say, easy to hold that space. Like there's no a question of can I, or will I break, or will it be too much, or there's just this trust of
you have infinite capacity.
There's infinite capacity that even if I'm not feeling it, I can call on and continue to do the work to expand into. Yeah. That's what feels really, 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 really exciting. That even if I bump into something that feels at the edge of my capacity, I mean, sometimes the word universe feels a little like triggering because it's so big, but then when you just let it be that big, it's just probably to have infinite capacity. It's a little braggy, which I'm in a bunch of spaces that are like, go bragging.
That was my experience of you from the beginning on the first date, because I was
his first date post.
And I came in with a lot. Like there was a lot happening over here, and you listened. We talked about a lot of things and back and forth, but I think I was quite upfront about where I was at. That wasn't my agenda, but I think I was just in a place of being honest and where I was, and not trying to pretend to be something or somewhere else. Well, and you listened and were curious, and I really, really, really deeply noticed that.
What was funny was that I'm remembering back, we had a whole conversation. So we went to the AGO, and then we went to this bar and for drinks, and we had a whole conversation. I'd just gotten out of a relationship. It was certainly not a marriage. I just gotten out of being asked to get married by 2 men in 2 years, and I was like, no, thank you. So we had this big talk in the bar. Do you remember that? I was like, you were like, nothing serious. I was like, yeah, nothing serious. Of course not. And then by the end of the night, I was like, yeah, I want something serious. And that was like, what about the conversation? I was like, things change very quickly.
You didn't say that at the end of the night.
No, not to you.
Not to me, I was going to say. I'm like, what?
I'm a little smarter than that. Side note for that earlier conversation, just no, I'm not going to do that.
Wait.
That needed time.
Yeah. Both our profiles were like something casual was the relationship category that we'd specified. And
for me, it was very much something casual until it's not. Like, yeah. Until you meet the person that you would like more with. Why does that make you laugh? What? Why does that make you laugh?
I think it's sweet, and it was, and I was like, no, something casual.
You worked really hard at keeping it casual.
I did.
Even as, yeah.
I did, and it was. Yeah, thinking about it, it was like I didn't want, after I met you, also going in, like I didn't want to, I wanted something casual. I didn't want a serious relationship, and then meeting you and getting to know you was, I don't want a serious relationship, but I want to keep getting to know you. Like I want more of this because this feels so good. And here we are.
Little patience can go a long way with the masculine.
Yeah, it really can.
I was like, I just knew. I just knew that you're, yeah, I just knew. I was like, okay, you can keep pretending. It wasn't like, I just knew. Anyway. And I'm really glad that you stayed patient too. With yourself.
With
And with me. Sometimes I was a little bit like, now? And you're like, no. I'm like, okay, now?
Still no. I need to swirl around over here a little while longer.
Yes. Being willing to suffer short can actually be very confronting.
You were very patient.
Which is funny because I've never been called that in my entire life.
And that was my ongoing experience of you.
I'll take it.
I needed to unfold.
Yeah.
It takes time.
It doesn't have to. All right. I'm just going to see if anybody had a question. If you are just catching this at the end, please don't be a lurker. Put hashtag replay or reslay. And I want to like celebrate us being so brave. And this is the closest we've come to hosting, to going out with, we've gone out with friends twice.
Yeah, it's been pretty much just you and me.
Pretty much, and we like it, but this is kind of fun.
Yeah, being seen.
We're being seen right now. This is for reals.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions? I'll be checking this post over the next couple of days. Any questions that you have? Yes, we have amazing actual processes that we do regularly. Maybe we'll do another live about some of our favorite things at some point. Yeah, be nice. And then tomorrow is my Ask Questions. Yeah, I guess it could be asking questions about relationship, but I was going to do some hot seat clearings, hot seat intuiting for what might be going on with you, with anything that's occurring to you that you'd like to have some more magic around your mindset or be calling forth in your life.
Take the opportunity. You will get served. She is amazing.
It's my pleasure to serve. All right. Thank you so much for joining us.